And I think we're live. So welcome back to everybody. If anyone joins in the next few minutes, all they'll miss is my intro spiel, which is fine because it's always worth missing. We're kicking off this next series with a two-part workshop on the gift of giving. And I am thrilled to welcome into this space Avrohom Ziedman, the principal educator at the incredible organization GIFT. And I'm sure that Rabbi Ziedman will share his more information about the charity GIFT, but probably many people have heard of it. Certainly I was introduced to it, at least 10 or a dozen years ago for the first time, seeing the sort of the drop points outside a lot of the kosher shops. And although 12 years ago, that's all I associated with it. I've come into contact with a lot more of, or I've been made aware of a lot more of GIFT's activities in the last few years. And I know that certainly during lockdown, there's been incredible pairing opportunities with sort of big brother, big sister style pairing. But maybe you'll be able to tell us a little bit more about the wider work that GIFT does nowadays. And but I think the main aim of this charity, of this organization, is it aims to inspire a culture of giving. And in tonight's workshop, Rabbi Ziedman is going to focus on how to be a giver in our relationships. So I will hand over to you, and please just riff on that if you'd like to, because I'm sure I didn't cover nearly, not even a teaspoon of what GIFT does.
Thank you. I think actually you explained it very well. Again, the goal of GIFT is to inspire people to become givers, and we really have three departments. One department is to give out food to families who are requiring assistance. We had about 200 households, but since COVID, we've got now over 300 households who are requiring food every single week. In fact, just last week, we created a kitchen where we're now creating also food. We're cooking meals for families who are requiring help. So if anyone here would like to help, also cooking some meals, we've got a kitchen now, and we're now also cooking meals. That's one part of GIFT. Another part of GIFT is volunteers, and we send out volunteers to go to hospitals to be able to help out families. We have a tutoring club, and again, try and inspire teenagers and adults to be able to volunteer. And the last side is the education, where we are giving sessions in primary schools, secondary schools, universities, young professionals, and I guess also adults as well, talking about different aspects of giving. And then one of the newest projects is once a week as well. We give a little 3-minute video, a family-friendly idea about giving from the week's Torah portion. There we go. So there's a lot more. If you want to find out more, also go to jgift.org and you'll see there's loads of stuff, and please get involved. And there we go. That's the instruction with GIFT. Right, let me give another introduction. I'm a rabbi, and therefore I have the inherent ability to talk non-stop without any breaks whatsoever, and I can literally just talk for hours and hours on end. Whether it was God given or just, I don't know, I've worked on, I don't know, but either way. So I would very much appreciate for you to interrupt me, and always with Zoom as well, because there's one, you have to actually press the button, wow, and then you have to actually talk. I say, but please do interrupt, because the goal is not just for me to talk and talk, but I would like to definitely make it interactive, and please question what I'm saying as well, because that also makes it much more fun as well. Okay, and with that, let us begin. So I literally want to dive straight in, because there's a huge amount of information that I want to get through. Well, we don't have to get through, but there's just so much to be able to talk about. So let's do this. I'm going to start straight away. There is the rabbi who created Gates Yeshiva. His name is Rav Dessler, and I'm kind of a little bit obsessed with Rav Dessler. Every one of his books, he talks about Jewish philosophy, and I just like reading every single thing and highlighting and debating every page. So really, when I talk about Jewish philosophy about giving, it really comes from Rav Dessler. Rabbi Dessler, he says that you can really divide the world into giving and taking. You can divide the world into many different ways. You can say those who support Arsenal and those who don't. But you could also divide the world saying every single, as he puts it, every action, every speech, and every thought you can say is either giving or taking. Every single time I have a thought, the thought can either be, why am I thinking this? Because, oh, I'm focused on being able to give, or I'm focusing on self. Speech, thought, and action. Or you could put it another way, is every single speech, thought, and actions is either focusing on what is my rights, what's in it for me, or what are my obligations, what can I do for you? Okay. Now, again, this is a time when you're welcome to unpause, you're welcome to unmute, but I'll carry on talking. So we often say that, marriage is about give and take. Marriage about give and take. Oh, really? Well, I would dare to argue that you can have a marriage based on give and take. You can have a marriage based on take and give. You can have a marriage based on take and take, and you can also have a marriage based on give and give. Now, let me just first of all be clear when I'm talking about give and give, because I don't mean that, no one receives anything. I go to my wife, Rivka, I brought you a bunch of flowers. No. I'm a giver. I'm not a taker. So I can't possibly take the flowers from you. And of course, when, or if my wife makes me a cake, then I can say, well, I'm a giver, not a receiver. I can't do that. So I can't. So we got a room, my room behind me over here is anytime anyone gives anyone else a present, we just stuff it inside there and it's filled to the brim. It's like, oh, thank you. Well, I'm a giver, not a taker. Let's just put it inside there because I can't take anything. No. So let's just define what we're talking about. There is obviously the giving action and there is a taking action. But whether something's giving or taking is not defined by the action, but rather defined by the motivation. I could be doing a giving, I could be taking, but my act of taking is motivated by giving, in which case, even though the action is taking, it is giving, and vice versa. I could also be doing giving, but if my motivation is taking, then I will be considered taking. So let's say, for example, if I were to, were I to open the door for my wife, then by her accepting the door being opened, then that will make me feel like a real hero because I can open the door, and that will make my ego be huge, and therefore her act of taking will be a very nice way of giving. In the same way as well, that it could very well be that when I'm giving, I'm only giving because I have to, or let's say, for example, a coffee place. So they give you a coffee with a nice smile, here you go, or even write your name on it, now give me your money. In which case they may be doing the act of giving, but if the only focus is to be able to take money out of your pocket, true, it may be an act of giving, but that is not defined as giving, that's defined as taking, because the whole motivation is, what can I get? So too in a marriage. You could have a marriage based on take and take. You could have a marriage based on give and give, which is what's the motivation. So let me just play it out in a little fun example. My wife makes these cookies. Now, I'm not American, as you can tell. And why am I calling it cookie? Because I don't know, but when it's round and it's doughy, it's called a cookie. Okay, otherwise it's a biscuit, but when it's round and doughy, with chocolate chips in, or the cranberries is even better actually, I will call that a cookie. So my wife makes incredible cookies. Now, what I don't understand to this day, but anyway, my wife likes flowers. I'll tell you why I don't understand it, because I've given once my wife a potted plant and she doesn't enjoy it. She said, no, I'm meant to do work on it. Oh, so what I do is I kill flowers, well, the shop does actually, cuts the flowers, and then I give them to my wife, and then they just slowly die. And also I don't like lists. I like to get my jobs done immediately, but yet my job is to throw away the flowers. So as soon as I buy the flowers, it's like, can I throw them away now? No, not yet. Okay. Now? No. Now? No, they're still good now. No? Okay, and then I chuck the flowers away, which only to buy more. So I don't get it. I mean, most of the point, you can't eat them. If you can't eat them. Anyway, so I like my wife's cookies and she likes flowers. Now, here'll be a relationship based on take and take. I want my cookie. But if I go to my wife, Rivka, and I say, Rivka, I want a cookie. Can I buy a cookie from you? I'll pay you. She'll get kind of offended. So I realized that I can't pay cash. It doesn't work that way. So I decide to go and buy a bunch of flowers. I come home and say, Rivka, I've been thinking about you all day. Here's a bunch of flowers. And she says, "Aw, let me make some cookies." Yes. Now, when I gave my wife those bunch of flowers, that was not an act of giving, because my whole motivation is paying for the goods that I need, which is my cookie. That would be take. And from my wife's point of view, she may want flowers. For some reason, it's only nice having flowers when my husband bought them. It's not the same thing when I buy them myself. Again, so she knows the way to a man's heart is through his stomach, and therefore, so I come in and I waft the smell of these cookies, and I go, "Wow, they smell amazing! I'm going to buy you some flowers." And Rifka goes, "Yes," and there we go. So that would be an example of a marriage based on take and take. Each one is paying what they need to pay in order to get what they want. But of course, obviously, we can see that there could also be the paradigm of having a marriage based on give and give. I love my wife and I give my wife flowers. I may very well know that I get a cookie in response, but I'm giving flowers because I want to give flowers, despite how illogical they are. And from my wife's point of view, she knows that her husband desperately needs to go on a diet, but hey, you've got a soft spot for the soft cookies. And therefore, she makes those cookies, knowing that's very well said. I might be giving the flowers in return, but the point is that's not the focus. I'm giving the cookie because my husband loves the cookies. I'm going to be giving a cookie. And that will be considered a marriage based on give and give. So true, in a marriage, you're going to have giving and receiving. But still, if both is focusing on give, then you have a give-give relationship, as opposed to what I have to pay, which will be considered a take-take relationship. So any questions on that? I'll carry on. Okay, there we carry on. So, I mean, I just to be able to bring this, I just want to bring this idea out just to like make it even clearer. Imagine this scenario where, let's say you've got a couple who are going through, again, I'm going to make it obviously, life is complicated and relationships are even more complicated, but I'm just going to keep it two-dimensional just for the sake of this analogy. Okay, imagine in the analogy that you have a couple who are, they're fighting and they're going to a counselor. Now they can either go to counselor A or counselor B. So let's say that in reality one, we'll put it in the box with Schrodinger's cat, dual reality splits now. So either they go to counselor one or they go to counselor two. Now, in counselor one, after just 1 or 2 sessions, the relationship gets amazing. Literally, it's rock bottom, and then just like straight up, relationship's brilliant after like 1 or 2 sessions. When they go to counselor B, then it takes many days and weeks and months, and slowly, the relationship gets slowly better, slowly better, slowly better. This one is immediate, and this one is slowly better. The question is, which one is the success and which one is the failure? Now, I know what you're thinking. Obviously, it's got to be the opposite, or else why would I ask the question? So the question is, what's the catch over here? So what's really going on? So you're right. So the answer is that this one is an utter total failure and this one is success. But the question is why? Well, I can't tell you because that would be private information. They had a private counseling and I'm not able to tell you. But let's just say I do anyway, because it's make believe anyway. So in scenario number 1, this is what the counselor says. Okay, husband, wife, we're going to pick one of you first. Okay, good. Okay, husband, would you just take a seat outside, please? I just want to speak to your wife. Okay, thank you. And then he says to the wife, what do you want out of this marriage? What do you mean what I want? What do you want? What? You got married for a reason. What do you want out of this? Wow. I can to pick the socks up from this floor. Okay, good. Okay, you know what? Write it down. Fine, good. I like him to be able to have a bath twice a day. Okay, fine. So she starts writing down everything that she really wants. I want this, and again, legitimate stuff as well as me joking around, right? So she writes down everything she's looking for in this marriage. Okay, is that everything? Yeah, that's everything. Good. Okay. Can you please take a seat outside and bring your husband in? Husband, what do you want out of this marriage? What do I want out of this marriage? Yeah, what do you want? Really? Really? Okay. It should be fun. And he starts writing down everything he wants out of this marriage. Do you have more paper? Just bring the whole book. Yeah, okay, fine. And he starts writing down every single thing that he wants out of this marriage, and he starts writing and writing and writing continuously. When you said everything, you mean every? Okay, good, right. Okay. So he starts writing down everything he wants out of this marriage. Here we go. The counselor says, I've got it sorted. Husband, wife, come in. Okay. I'm now going to give you the best marriage ever. Are you ready? Here is what you created, or maybe it should be like that. There you go. Husband, this is all the stuff that you wanted. Wife, this is all stuff that you wanted. Are you ready? Husband, I'm going to give you all this. Wife, I'm going to give you all this. It's as simple as this. If you want this, husband, what you got to do is keep these rules. Wife, you want all this? Simple. You keep all those rules. As long as you keep all of this and you keep all of this, you'll get everything you possibly want out of this marriage. And you know what? They end up happy. The only thing is that you have utterly, totally destroyed the entire marriage. There is no relationship now. There is no give whatsoever You have literally reduced the marriage to, how can I get out of you what I want? It's not, there's no relationship. It's just, I'm viewing the other person, so to speak, as a piece of meat or what, something to be able to just, there, you are here to give me pleasure, and I'll pay whatever I have to pay for it. But then that's what your whole focus is in, which is not a relationship. As opposed to when it comes to the other counselor says, did you ever start thinking about the other person? Now, of course, they wouldn't say in those terms, clearly I'm not a counselor, but they'll start saying, think about where she is feeling, think about where he's coming from. And the thing is, though, is that we are natural born takers, and be able to start focusing on myself, moving towards focusing on the other is not an easy thing to do. I mean, when we think about it, when we're babies, we are totally selfish. There is no greater selfish human being in the planet other than babies, followed by children. Proof being is, just a baby, see, a baby's born, thank God, usually, with two slaves, sometimes one slave, but, mummy, daddy, but, they're born with slaves who are there to be able to look after their entire needs for everything. And the baby would, the baby doesn't really care about the parents, just cares about themselves. So in the middle of the night, a bit thirsty, baby might say, "Mummy, can I please have a drink?" Of course, can't speak, so it goes, to which the mummy says, "Yeah, just give me 3 minutes." 3 minutes. No, you give me a drink now, or I'll blast your ears out. Okay. Baby gets seen to. And then you finally go back to bed, right? And then it's like, "I'm feeling a bit burpy. Can I please be burped here?" No. Now, I'm warning you. Okay. And then when finally you get to sleep, right? Then it comes to, I'm feeling a bit wet down here. Can we have a bit of room service? Now? Yeah, come on, let's get this going. Yeah, thank you. Good. Okay, now I can go to sleep. Well, you, of course, don't sleep at all. And that is, and by the way, that's healthy. That's very, very healthy. That's how children are meant to be. Children are meant to be selfish, and they need to know that there's someone out there who's looking after all their needs. The problem is that that's, if you put into our GPS signal, the GPS signal is me. And if we don't actually change the course from me to I'm here for you, then that's the course which stays. And therefore, you're going to get a baby moving into a child, moving into tweens, moving into teens, moving into their 20s, 30s, adult life, being just one big baby. It's only that the toys change. It's just basically, look after me, give me my work or you're fired. It's just one big baby. It's all the same thing. So it's hard to be able to focus on the other person, but this marriage, which might not be that they're getting the most pleasure ever out of it, what you're doing is you're building a relationship. As far as Judaism is concerned, is the relationship, the goal of a marriage is not just to get out of your partner as much pleasure as possible, but it's to build a relationship to become one. Now, I've been talking for quite a long time now with no comments. Any questions? Have I offended anyone? Is there any discussion?
I've got a question actually. So how do you actually change someone, if he was raised and now he's, like a big baby?
How do you change someone else, or how do you change yourself?
Help him, right? Because then he'll never give. He'll just, let's say, take while giving. So how do you actually help him understand and become someone that can actually give?
Yeah. Okay. So there's a very long answer for that. Again, stage one, I would say, is again, getting someone else who's not interested. In truth, I don't know. So the only person I know changing is self. But let's say even I want to change myself. How do I do that? So there is a principle of lo lishma, ba lishma. If you do things for selfish reasons, that can lead to altruism. So Rav Dessler takes that one step further. It's not true actually that selfishness leads to altruism. It's rather this. And I hope I'm not getting a bit tongue-tied here. Altruistic selfishness leads to altruism. What? So it goes like this, that in order, I have a desire to be able to give, but it's hard to go from my desire all the way into actualization. and therefore I can always use ulterior motives to be able to help me. So again, on a very, if I was to give, I will give myself an ice cream, and if I do that, that would be, so what I'm doing is I'm putting in the level of selfishness, I'm putting in this motivation, because I know if I focus on the selfishness, I can use it as a means to being able to go to become altruistic. Now, we'll talk more about this next time. This totally happens with kids, totally happens with children, and there's different levels of selfishness. So when it comes to actually, Maimonides goes through the order. He says the first thing is food. And you see that with kids, sweeties. Again, I'm not talking about whether it's good for their teeth and stuff, or whatever. Always, the sweetie man, and sure, you must have a sweetie man, or maybe not COVID. But anyway, so again, if you daven, you'll get a sweetie. If you do this, you'll get a sweetie. Now that gets developed. The Rambam says, interestingly, after sweets comes clothes. Interesting. After clothes, then money. Again, it's not. The point is to be able to help someone. It's like, I know you. Again, we'll talk about children. I know you want to do what's right, but it's hard. So you know what? I'll give you a £5 note if you manage to be able to do this. That can move on to something more refined, more spiritual, kavod, honor. And I see this the whole time. that the people we'd like to donate. Well, I do, but I don't. I can't do it. Okay, you know what? We'll put your name on this. We'll make this, we'll call it the something, whatever, or we'll give you a gold page or a silver page. Oh, okay, fine. How much is a platinum? Can I get a platinum page for half price? I always find that very interesting. Yeah, can I get it's just a piece of paper. Anyway, but can I get a platinum page piece for half price? Sure. Okay. So therefore, people are using kavod, they're using their honor also as motivator. Now, there's even higher levels of motivation, which is also a high level, is to feel someone else's pain, empathy. So empathy is also.
The main problem is when someone is selfish, he doesn't even see that he's selfish, right? For him, it behaves naturally. It's natural for him to do whatever.
Yeah.
So it's.
So I don't have a formula of changing people who don't want to change. I know with myself that there's always more developments, and therefore I would use my lolishma, my alternative. If there's someone who I'm just not feeling, I don't want to help. So one motivator for me could be, well, let's think about what it'll be in their scenario. Let's put myself in their shoes. Oh, that's horrible. And I find that as an easier motivator to be able to give. Or by the way, when it comes to charity dinners, do you know how much we have to spend on buying, on hiring a video guy to make this whole movie? Thousands. For what? Because people find it hard to give unless they're emotionally blackmailed. So therefore, oh, okay, fine, come to this dinner. Are you ready to be emotionally blackmailed now? Are you ready? Okay, let's put the video on. And then you see the kids and the tears are crying, and it's all in black and white and horrible, but then comes along gifts, and now the lights go, bright. So you put the hue on a bit more and everything. Now you've got the nice, the music, which everything comes together. Host, would you please give out your donation, things like, okay. And then everyone starts giving the donations, which means people, but for someone who truly does not want to change, I don't have an answer for that. I don't have an answer about changing on people. Apologies.
I had a question or a comment about the giving and taking being a mindset, and that I suppose it can change whether you are giving or you are receiving based on your motivation behind your action. So does that mean that within any scenario, and even in between moments, and that can change? So opening the door in one split second might be taking because the kids are upstairs crying, and if I open the door, I'll have another pair of hands. But literally half a second later, it's, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see my spouse because I want, So I find that really interesting, that there isn't really a boundary between them, and you can flip-flop between those two mindsets in seconds.
That's it. Well, Des has taken this from really the book Chovos Levavos, Duties of Our Heart, who says that everything is either, if you look at halacha, as far as halacha is concerned, there is three categories. There is mitzvahs, good stuff, the averas, the bad stuff, and there's parav in between, which is just neutral. When you look at the Baalei Mussar, those who look at self-improvement, Chovos Levavos is a book which is like that. He says there's no such concept of parav. It's either, everything is either mitzvah orientated or not, the other orientated. So Avdessa takes that idea and says either at every moment in time, you will either be focusing on you or me. with every bit. Either it's focus on outside of myself, or what do I gain out of this? Okay. So again, just to bring just another analogy of it. We're through half page. We got 7 pages to go through. Yeah, we're not going to go through. It's fine. It's fine. I always prepare more than what's needed. I mean, there's a story of a rabbi who sees one of his pupils eating gefilte fish, and this pupil is really getting into his gefilte fish, and it's just like, and the rabbi says to him, "Wow, I see you really like the gefilte fish, Rabbi. I love this gefilte fish." So why'd you kill the fish? Why are you eating it? So you don't love the fish, you love yourself. And so too, I just sometimes wonder that when it comes to a spouse, the focus is don't view your spouse as a gefilte fish. Okay, the idea is what can I give to my spouse rather than what do I get out of my spouse. But also, I mean, it's interesting, the word for marriage in Hebrew is nisuyim. And nisuyim also comes from the word nasa, to carry. What does it mean? It means that no matter how heavy my spouse gets, I don't mean physically, right? It's like, I'll never put you down. I'm always here for you. Marriage means is that it's not what's my right, but my focus. What can I do for you? I guess another, also interesting as well, the word korban, which means a sacrifice. The word korban has the word kiruv, closeness. So what is a sacrifice? It's when you're letting go of all the noise. I will be able to give up in order to build a closeness. Okay. So to be able to see this also in the Talmud says in Gemara Brachos 56b, it says that Amar Rabbi Hanan, there are 3 types of shalom. There are 3 types of peace. There is a peace of a nahar, a river, a tzipor, a bird, a kedera, and a kettle. Right. Okay, so now let's understand what on earth it's talking about. 3 different types of peace. The lowest type of peace is that of a river. If you imagine that you were to have a river between 2 towns, and if there was a fight between the 2, one town might cut off the water supply to the other. And therefore, it's in both their self-interest to make sure that there's no war. That is a low level of peace. This is me with my roommate when I was in yeshiva. Let's just get along. Basically not war. So this is not what we're going for in marriage. A higher level is that of a kettle. And when it comes to a kettle, there you have fire and water working together as a team to create something which is productive, hot water. But the only reason why fire and water are a team is because we have a common goal. Once that goal has been solved, then there's no need for the relationship. So there's another type of shalom, which is not the ideal, which is that we have a goal. We've got to look after the kids. So we need to work together towards something else, we need to be able to make sure there's tax benefits. And therefore, well, it's great to marry because you know what, we get the tax benefits. But as long as there's something there, we work together, but just because there is a goal that we're working towards. That's another type of peace, which is higher than the first, but still, as you can see, it's lacking. The highest goal is that of a bird. And a bird has 2 parts to it. It flies and it walks. It's not because one has a benefit towards the other. It's just they are 2 entities becoming one. And the goal of a marriage is that when it comes to my spouse, I see my spouse as one. And in truth, we say, that spouses are meant to be soulmates. They are soulmates. And when it came to Adam, there was, again, I wouldn't take this literally, but Adam apparently was androgynous. That he had the face, it says, Kabbalah says, had the face of a man on one side, face of a woman on the other side. So it wasn't just man, it was man and woman. And then they were split, and then they go from back to face to create a stronger connection. And when every person gets married, they are marrying their soulmate and they are becoming one. And therefore, the peace that we're looking for, the giving, is that it's the 2 halves joining together to make a whole. There's a famous story of Rabbi Aryeh Levine, also known as a prison rabbi in Israel. And he went to the doctor once because his wife's leg was hurting. And the doctor said, "Why are you here?" He So he said, our leg is hurting. Again, our leg is hurting. So it's not about the rights, but it's about the obligations, about what can I do for my other half. Okay. Any questions or move on? Okay. Let's move on. Let's move on. All right. So, where should we move on to the next? I guess I want to look at this. I mean, there's several things to get through, but I want to look at this one now. When we said again that there's giving and there's taking, well, if taking can also be motivated on well, we call it receiving, on being able to give to the other person. I think there is a beautiful cycle of a giving and receiving cycle within a marriage, and this can also be worked on. And I think the cycle goes like this. The more you honor, the more you can receive. The more you can receive, the more gratitude. And then gratitude turns you from a receiver into a giver. So honor, receive, gratitude. Honor, receive, gratitude, honor, receive, gratitude. Let's go through that. Let's go through stage one. When we realize that we're, let's take a stage back. People say similarity attracts. Sorry, they don't say that. They say the opposite. They say the word opposite as well. Yes, they say the opposite, which is the opposite. People say opposites attract. That was going through my mind. I would say it's not true. I don't think opposites attract. I think similarity attracts, actually. I think that the more similar goals you have with someone, that's what brings connection. When we say opposites attract, what does it mean? It means that my wife is nothing like me at all. Interesting, actually, when I was looking to get married, my sister was my shadchan. I asked my sister, basically, can you try to find it? You have so many friends, my older sister. Can you find me a friend? And she's like, who would want to marry my little brother? In the end, her best friend did. Ha! But there we go. So she's 2 years older than me, but I'm very mature. So, okay. So the point, where on earth was I going with it? That's right. So originally, I was actually looking to marry someone like my sister, who is very similar to me. Again, don't want to get any wrong idea. I'm not in love with my sister, but I was looking for someone who had a very similar personality to my sister, i.e., a similar personality to me. In the end, thank God, I married someone who was totally different. I have, skills and talents, and I've got lots of lackings. Skills and talents lacking, skills and talents lacking. I was looking for someone just like me. And with that, there's a problem, because when you marry someone just like you, there is nothing you can give. But what I found is, and again, I think every couple finds this actually, is that however similar you thought to each other, you're not. And therefore, opposites attract means is that what I've got stuff which I can give because they don't have, and they've got stuff to give me that I don't have. And this makes the bonds connecting, because each one is different, being able to give that which I don't have myself. With that, what's vital within the marriage is the concept of honor. To honor someone means I appreciate that you have something to give to me. It's like you don't want to receive from someone unless there's something which they have to give. And we need to be able to find within our spouses what they have to offer, which I don't have. And there is no question about it that your spouse is nothing like you. There is always going to be, however similar, there is so much your spouse has which you do not have. And therefore, I need to spot what do they have. And stage one, honor, which means I realize that us being two halves of one single soul, that I've only got half of my soul, you've got the other, you have something to give. If without honor, then I won't be able to receive. You can see this, simply just with a teacher and a student. If the teacher is teaching and the student just goes, you have nothing to offer, then it's not that the teacher won't give. The point is that the student won't be able to accept it. Stage one, to be able to accept what your spouse has, you have to have honor. Now, once you have honor, and the more honor you have, the more the spouse is wanting to be able to give to you. And then you receive. Now, this act of receiving shows that I am vulnerable. You have to have vulnerability to say that I am lacking and you have something to give to me. And showing vulnerability also is what builds a relationship. If I don't need my spouse, then there's a distance. But to say that, no, I need you. You have something from me that I can gain from. By doing that, by you receiving, you are making the other person also feel like a hero. that they have the ability to be able to give. So they are giving because they're giving. You are giving by actually receiving. You can see this idea, by the way, when it comes to a mother and baby. When a baby suckles from the mother, who is more happy, the mother or the baby? So I'd say it's the mother. The mother, I mean, when the mother can't feed, the baby's fine with a bottle, perfectly fine, but it can cause, and I've seen mothers getting distressed, that why won't my baby feed from me? It's like, what's going wrong? Am I a bad mother? What have I done? It's like, no, the mother wants to be able to give. When the baby's receiving, the baby's doing such a kindness to the mother to allow the mother to be able to give. It goes even deeper than that. The more the baby sucks, the more actually the mother has the ability to have an expression, to be able to give more. Now I can see this myself as well. When I was in yeshiva, my translation skills were atrocious. I'm dyslexic, and I only got to speak English when I was about 4 years old. Not that I could speak any other language. I couldn't speak any language. I found it. I spent my whole life in speech therapy. Thank God I can speak now. I'm trying to make up for it, by the way. So my Hebrew translation skills were terrible. So when I got married, my wife's skills are amazing. And I felt incredibly embarrassed, almost like a fraud, that here I am, I'm someone in yeshiva, I'm trained to be a rabbi, and my translation skills are terrible. So my wife said to me, she said, teach me. And I said, you can do it. She said, no, but when you do it, that you're giving me something, you're seeing it from a different angle that I didn't have it from. And we opened it up and I stumbled over the translation and it was horrible, but she was enthusiastic to be able to say, no, please give me, I want to hear it, I want to. So she not only managed to allow me to give to her, but through her encouragement, she drew out of me my potential and made me even stronger in that skill, which I otherwise wouldn't have had. So by receiving, you create the other, in a good way, you're almost like a vacuum cleaner. You allow the other person, you bring out in the other person the ability to be able to give even more. So by honoring, it shows vulnerability. I want to receive from you. When you receive, the other person feels great because they feel like the giver. You show vulnerability, but you allow them to be able to give. Once I receive, then I feel like the next stage is you throw it back from them. You go from a receiving into a giving. Because from receiving, that then leads into a thanks. And what is a thank you? So the Hebrew word for thanks is hoda'ah. And hoda'ah has three meanings to it. Hoda'ah means, well, I think actually a good translation of the word hoda'ah is appreciation. And appreciation also means two things. Appreciation means a thanks. And I also appreciate means I also understand. So the word for thanks in Hebrew, hoda'ah, means a thanks, an understanding, and there's one other thing as well. On Yom Kippur, we say vidui, confession. And that comes from the same word, hoda'ah. So the word for thanks means feelings of appreciation, an understanding, and an expression. What's the connection with these three words? That a true thank you is, number one, I understand that I am vulnerable. I needed you. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be able to have this. Vulnerability, an understanding that you have given me something. If you haven't given me something, I could do it myself, then there's no true thanks. The thanks is that I realize that I'm only half. I need this other half. I need you to be able to give, and I will receive. Stage one is the understanding that you have something of value in this relationship. Number two is the feelings of thanks. Obviously, a thanks without the feelings is useless. And then stage number three is I have to express it. And I feel sometimes that one might be missed. It could be, of course, I'm thankful. Yeah, but it has to be expressed as well. No, we know how each other works. And therefore, it's clear that that was a thanks. No, it needs to be expressed continuously. And that is what the thanks is. So I feel that that's the triangle over here of respect and honor, leading to being able to receive, turning that receiving into being able to give. Again, when you're giving a thanks, it means that I'm now giving you something. And we know that, if someone's giving a true thanks, sometimes it's awkward to be able to receive it because you realize they're giving something really true. By the way, in the same way that if you were to give a present to your spouse, you would want them to accept it. when it comes to a compliment as well, accept it. The best thing you could do is accept it. Don't, no, there's nothing, no, it's okay. Accept it. So they give and you accept. Okay. Any questions? Oh, we want to another part. Here we go. So let's keep on moving forward. Okay, here we go. If we look at the English, I think the English language is, well, again, I've got things against English language, not just because I find it so hard to speak, but the actual English language as well. Just, for example, what's the word happiness mean? Happiness is almost like happenstance. It just happens to be. What causes happiness? It just, it just happens. Happiness. The word for, by the way, the word for happiness in Hebrew is simcha, which means sham moach, place your head there. Think about it. It doesn't happen naturally. And I think one contrast, we also see this in the world of giving within a relationship as well, is this concept of love. When I fall in love, just fall in love, just falling out of love. The word for love in Hebrew is ahava. And it's such a beautiful word, and there's so much depth behind the word ahava. You can ask the question, how can it be that the Torah commands me to love my neighbor as myself? I just don't. You shall love God. But I don't. But you must, it's a commandment. But I don't. So what is this concept of love? To be able to have a commandment for love, it must mean actually that this is something more than just a summer's breeze. It must be that there's something to love and something that we can work on. So it's not just love comes or goes, you fall in, you fall out, but rather love is something which it's something which can be developed and worked on. So Rav Dessler, once again, he asked the question, he says, is it that because I love someone, I give to them? Or is it that to whom I give, I love? Chicken and egg question. Is it that because I love, I give? Or is it because I give, I love? And he comes to the conclusion that actually it's the process of giving which creates the bond. It creates the love. I always see this, I say to, I'm doing sessions with students, I ask them, who loves who more? Do you love your parents more? Your parents love you more? So again, it takes them a while to realize this, but no, my parents love me more. Why? You are, again, as children, some of you still are, selfish brats. Why should that be? Answer is, ironically, because they give more. They've had more of an opportunity to give to you than you give to them. And that act of giving causes love. And you can, by the way, see this in the word ahav, love. The word ahav is made out of 3 letters, an aleph, and a hey, and a base. So if I really boil it down, it goes like this. The word aleph, the letter aleph, means an individual. It doesn't, by the way, mean the body. It means the spark of spirituality inside each individual. Every single word for humanity always begins with an aleph. The word for I in Hebrew is ani, begins with an aleph. The word for man in Hebrew, ish. The word beginning with an aleph. The word for woman, isha. The first human, Adam. Interesting. So therefore, aleph represents myself, but the spiritual self. The word hey, if you spell out the word hey, you spell it hey aleph, hey. And the word hey means to give. Okay, we see that in Gemara Bava Metzia. The word hey means to give. And bet, base, means a second. I always find it interesting. An av, oh, of course, yeah, also. Av, father, begins with an aleph. And imma, begins with an aleph. And abba and imma have the second generation. What's a son called? A ben. And what's a daughter called? A bat. Aleph, aleph, abba, imma creates ben and bat, second generation. Nice. There we go. So therefore, ahav is one aleph, an individual, hey, giving bet to a second person. What is love? You see this in the word for word love itself, is when you give to when one person gives to another, that is the formula for love. So we can always develop it by the more. We don't say, I always get my relationship with my spouse is great, yeah? Yeah, we never see each other. We only see each other every so often. So it's great. We never argue because we just don't see each other. No. The more you give, the more the love grows. Now I could finish there, but I like to actually just take it one step. I like to take it one step deeper. Why? Why is it that when you give, it causes love? Now, I want to go a little bit Kabbalistic-y for you, if that's okay, because I just think, and I'll bring it back down to practical, but I think it's a beautiful idea. To be able to answer this question, with only a few minutes to go, we have to answer a fundamental question of, who am I? 24601. Who am I truly? You know, they say, the Kabbalists say that when you get to the next world, whatever that means, the first question you're asked before were you honest in business is, what is your name? Who are you? Ooh, deep. So we'll play it out right now, you know. So who are you? I'm Avrohom Ziedman. No, that's just a label your parents gave you. I asked you, who are you? I'm a male. No, I gave you that gender. Who are you? I'm born to, no. My personality, I gave you a personality. I'm a soul. We're all souls over here, man, but everyone's a soul. So who are you? So when you think about my achievements, yeah, but the thing is, though, the achievements only came about by the brain power that I gave you, and the scenario, and the fact that you're in a Western world, and the fact everything around. So you can't truly say it's you. What can you say is you, only you, and you can't blame it on anyone else, nothing else, just you entirely.
All of the things that you're not.
Well, then it's not me. Well, so I'm not. I am what I'm not.
Define yourself by what you are not.
So you can't. You have to define yourself by what you are, not what you're not. There is something which is you. There is something which is true you. I'll give you just a few moments to think about it. Okay. I think the definition of who you are, the true definition is your efforts. Your efforts, not your results, but your efforts. Your efforts into, on the morality level of good and bad, is who you are. Not your parents, no surroundings can make your efforts for you. You might be struggling with something tiny when someone's struggling with something huge. You know, what I find hard, you find easy. The one thing I can say is truly me is the efforts that I put in for good or for bad. My efforts. Okay. Taking that concept that I am my efforts, I want to take this a little bit deeper. The Gemara says, what do you about the Gemara? Okay. If I am my efforts, that means I have the capability of putting my efforts into an inanimate object, and I can see myself in that inanimate object, because if I am my efforts and I put my efforts into it. Let's be clear. If I was to draw a picture, not just, but I really put my efforts into a drawing, and someone were to tear it apart, they'll be tearing a part of me apart. I see myself inside the drawing. Why? Because I am my efforts and I put my efforts into the drawing. I've got over here a dresser. This is my dresser. I got it from IKEA. It didn't even have any instructions in, just a few doodles. This is the dresser drawer which Avrohom Ziedman built. You want to give me another one? No, this is my one. So I will say the Gemara. The Gemara says that tzaddikim, they love their money more than their bodies. Interesting. Love their money, tzaddikim. Righteous people love their money more than their bodies. You would think it's the opposite. I'll tell you why. Because if you don't work on your body, they're not going to the gym. So they don't work on their body. It's just a freebie gift. Do you think I work on this beauty over here? It just came with me. I was just born like this. But if I put effort into money, then I see myself inside my money. And money means mitzvahs. The more money, the more mitzvahs. But the point is what you put effort into, you see yourself inside that. Now, if that applies to an inanimate object, it can also apply to a person. By the way, one of my friends, a teacher, so she wanted to teach in primary school the kids that you could love anything. So she wanted to teach them that you could love jelly. So what if you love jelly, what's the one thing you're not going to do to the jelly? Eat it, of course. So they all made jelly at school, and they had to take the jelly home. They had to read it a bedtime story. They had to take it for a walk. They had to, there was a whole list of things. Take it for a walk, bedtime story, and, you know, like walk around with it, cuddle it and stuff. There was a whole list of stuff they had to do for a week. And then they had to bring the jelly back to school. True story. One of the kids bringing back his jelly on a plate, jelly on a plate, wibble wobble, jelly on a plate, and slipped. No! Jelly went on the floor, and this kid was beside himself, and he was crying his eyes out. And the headmistress came in and said, "What's going on?" "I dropped my jelly." "Okay, we'll get you another jelly." "No, it's my jelly!" And this child was distraught. It's like, what? Went to my friends and said, "Is there something wrong with Daniel here?" It's something like, what is going on? It's like, no, that was his jelly. "I know it was his jelly. I'll get him another jelly." "No, it was his jelly. He loves it. I know he loves the jelly." "No, we're learning how." "Okay, fine." Even jelly you can start liking. I'll just give you one more. My brother-in-law, he actually passed away 2 years ago. He changed his name to Pickles. I mean, he really changed his name to Pickles. I mean, I'm not joking here. Passport, Pickles. He changed his name to Pickles. He really liked pickles. In the end, actually, he made actually a business called Pickles in Law. If you're in a pickle, he'll get you out, with the law, he'll try to help you get out. So he liked pickles. And when I went to my in-laws' house, there were pickle jars everywhere. Everywhere. And he started telling me about how he put this spice in, that spice in, all the different spices he put into his pickles. And he asked me to taste the pickles. And they were all right. But I can tell you this, that Mrs. Ellswood's pickles, which, by the way, there's no one called Mrs. Ellswood. You know that, right? It's L Street, Boreham Wood, Ellswood, just in case you didn't know that. So you learned something tonight. There you go. Mrs. Ellswood is L Street and Boreham Wood. There you go. Good. You learned something. There you go. So Mrs. Ellswood's pickles taste way better than his pickles. Why does he love those pickles? Because he put his blood and sweat into those. Okay, that's probably why I didn't like the taste of them. But he put his blood and sweat into those pickles. He saw himself in the pickle because he built a pickle. Because he put himself into the pickles, you see that now. Let's take it further then. So if I see someone else, and if I have my spouse, when I give to them, what am I doing? I'm putting myself inside of them. I am my efforts. I'm putting my efforts into them. So therefore, when I see my spouse, I'm starting to see, hey, they are me. And we see this with kids, it becomes more natural. Like, someone hurts another kid. Okay, shouldn't do that. It hurts my kid. You hurt my kid. All of a sudden, it's like all these, because you see them as a part of you. The more we give, the more we see that a person becomes a part of me. And therefore, as long as I love myself, I will love them. Which also, interestingly, we say love your neighbor as yourself. Why is it so important to love yourself? Because if you don't love yourself and you start investing in other people, then all the negativity you see in yourself, you see inside them. And we sometimes have that sometimes I'm irrational when it comes to my children, and I get really upset about something. And it's like, what was going on? Why am I upset with them? Oh, because I see them as part of me, and that I see them actually, the bit which I'm upset about myself, I'm projecting it and seeing it inside my children. And therefore, what's important is we have to build ourselves up. Once we build ourselves up, then I see myself inside the other spouse and start loving. How can it be, by the way, then, that the Torah says, commands to love your neighbor as yourself? How can you command to love God? Answer is, it's not telling you to do the emotion. It's telling you, we want you to invest in the other. When you invest, the emotion comes naturally. Okay. We got through some of the stuff. There's huge amounts more, but I think, there's some of the stuff that we looked at. I hope some of that was also practical things to be able to work on, I guess, is being able to give, showing vulnerability to my spouse, seeing how I can receive from my spouse. What else do you see also from there? Again, the mindset about what's in it for me or the giving, trying to look at my spouse, again, not as a piece of gefilte fish, yum, but rather to be able to focus on my obligations of how I can be able to give. And we want to build a relationship seeing that we are one, we are a bird, not just a river, not just even a kettle, that we're here for one goal, but rather being one unit.
Thank you very, very much. That was absolutely brilliant. I think it's been an incredible whistle stop of how to be a giver within the context of a marriage or a relationship. And I think that the richness of your analogies in particular makes it all so real. And brings it into the realm of real life and not just some distant marriage advice from, you know, a certified marriage counselor. So thank you for that. For me, the standout nugget is, I think, is the not being pegged as giver or receiver, or that there's any sort of negative connotation to the taking or receiving, and that actually is a form of giving as well. I think that's a really novel, well, not novel, that Rav Dessler says it, but a really wonderful approach to a relationship where there's always going to be both giving and receiving. Please join us again next week. Avram will be speaking about how to raise children so that they will become givers. So I look forward to seeing everyone again next Thursday, same time, for part 2. Thank you again very, very much, Avram.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Have a good
Bye.
evening.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was wonderful.
We'll stop the live, live on YouTube.